Okay, so hopefully you have downloaded and installed Adobe Photoshop and you are ready to get started making some digital images. So let me give you a quick tour of Photoshop, the interface. I have several pictures here open already, and they open up in different tabs. These are some past student examples. And one of the things that I want you to notice about the different tabs is that they have a percentage here. So like this one says 16.7%. This one says 29%. So, and this one says 33.3%. So what that means is that Photoshop isn't showing us the full 100% of the image because it's too large. And we'll be talking about this more like next week when we're talking about image resolution. But it's just something for you to pay attention to because the image size that you're seeing here on the screen really has nothing to do with the image size if you were to print it out. So it's just something to kind of pay attention to. The other thing that it shows us here in the tab is like the name and the file format. So that can be important sometimes to look at, and if it's in color or black and white, like grayscale. All right, so that's just, I have a bunch of images open. They're on tabs. Over here, we have the toolbar, which you can drag around. And they used to kind of have like little bars in between these different sections because they are kind of grouped together, but they got rid of those things. But the top tool here is the move tool, and that's one you're going to use a lot. And then we move into a bunch of selection tools. And one thing I want you to notice is that most of these tools have a little arrow at the bottom, and that means if you click and hold down on it, then you'll see that there are other similar tools embedded within. So you might want to just take like a second and like go through the tools and check them out. And we have our crop tool, and then we kind of go into this section for retouching. These are tools that we'll talk about all throughout the semester, retouching tools and then erasing tools. And here's our gradient tool. If I hold that down, I can also get to a paintbrush. Here's some other kind of retouching tools. We don't really use these a whole lot. Then we get into vectors and text. And down here we have our navigating tools. So if I have something extremely zoomed in, for example, and I want to be able to move around and see another corner of it, I can take my hand tool and move that around. That's cool. And then down here I have like my color pickers, and this is for my foreground color, my background color, and I can switch those, or I can click on these and I can pull up a whole color palette here. So that's our toolbar. And up here you have like on your main menu under file the sort of things that you would expect to have there, like that's where you go to open up things or save things, look for recent. And under edit, a lot of these things I'm going to encourage you to learn as a keyboard shortcut, but our copy and our paste, we're going to go to transform a lot. So that's one under edit, transform, or you can like rotate things, flip things, stuff like that. Under image, we will, in another video this week, I'm going to talk about the color modes. So we're going to be able to we'll talk about switching things to grayscale or checking if they're color. Under adjustments, we'll be looking at a lot of these things. And image size, canvas size, image rotation, these are all things we'll be looking at a lot. Crop, there's a crop tool. I tend not really to use this. Layers, so layers have their own panels, but it's always good to know that there are duplicate ways to get to your layers, like the options through this layer option here, but mostly we'll be using the panel and the icons here. And then we have a whole section for, sorry, my computer's being a little odd here. We have a section here for type, all things related to type. Selection, we'll be looking at these things, but I'll also encourage you to learn some keyboard shortcuts. Filters, that's lots of fun stuff. We're not going to be working with 3D in this class, that's in Dig 2. And view, so zooming things in, it's just about how we're going to view things. We'll have some projects later on where we will be looking at using rulers and guides to help us with our alignments. And window, this is an important one. This shows you what panels you have open. So if you're here under window, you can see that there are actually a ton of panels that are available to you, and just the ones with the check marks are the ones that are open. So by default, your workspace is probably set to essential. If your workspace currently looks different from mine, go up to Window, check Workspace, and see if it's marked on essential. But you can also try out these other workspaces. So for example, photography. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull up some different panels, things that you might be using more frequently if you're working with photography. So if you ever close out a lot of your panels, two ways you can get them back. One, you can just go up to Window, Workspace, hit Essentials, and that will bring back the default panels. Or you can just simply go up here and say, oh, I closed my history panel. I want to open that one up, and just click on the specific panel you want. Speaking of panels, over here we have our panels, and the panels, you can open them, you can dock them, you can make them really tiny, they become icons, you can drag them around, so on and so forth. So the history panel is one that you're going to want to have open or docked, but you'll want to use that throughout the semester. And the other panel over here that we're going to be using a ton is the layers panel. So I'm just going to click and drag that one out so you can see it a little better, and I can expand it. But right now my image only has the background layer, which has a lock icon, and there are lots of icons down here. All of these things are the things we're going to be learning about. I'll move over to a Photoshop image. This is from a past student from one project that you're going to have called Composite Portraits. And here you can see the layers are being used. So that's the real beauty of Photoshop, is that you can put things on different layers so that you can do what's called non-destructive editing. And that's a term you're going to hear me using a lot this semester, or maybe you won't hear me using it. You'll see me writing it. Non-destructive editing, non-destructive editing. That's going to be like one of our big goals. How can we do things so it's non-destructive? So that way, if I turn off all of these layers, I can see the original image. That's our goal of non-destructive. So all these things are happening on different layers. And that's one of the beauties of Photoshop. So a lot of the things that are here, these icons, you can get to through the layers from the main menu, but I'll encourage you to use the icons. I think that's pretty convenient. It's kind of like keyboard shortcuts. All right, so that's basically it for the interface, and feel free to play around and go and explore and look at all these different things and just start making marks. And it's a great way to just start learning, but we'll start going through all of these individual things in the next couple of videos.